This podcast represents the opinions of the hosts of the Laugh Cry Club and guests on the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we share is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Welcome back, everybody, to the Laugh Cry Club. I am Joy.
I'm Chelsea, and we are missing our dear
Rebecca.
friend, Rebecca. We're missing
We love
her.
you.
Rebecca, we miss you so much. We had to change our scheduling because of life and human stuff.
And it's rare. I mean, we've been real good for a year of like things lining up, but then, every once in a while things are going to hit a speed bump where the three of us can't get our schedules together. So Rebecca couldn't make it today, and we have some travel plans coming up. So we're just going to do an episode with Chelsea and myself. For those of you who might be new to the show, we are 3 licensed therapists. We also have a therapist on the show named Rebecca, who's not here today, but if you listen to all of our other episodes, you will hear her wonderful voice. And we've been doing this podcast, like I said, for over a year. We really just want to talk more in depth about emotions, hopefully provide some great tips and tricks about how to handle this thing called life. So we start every episode with a laugh and a cry. And then this week, we're going to have a topic around how to navigate uncertainty, which I was laughing this morning, Chelsea, because I was like, it's cute that we're kind of turning October into like spooky season. Last week we talked about the ghost story and how we could essentially just be like, uncertainty is scary, and how we're going to talk about all things scary in October because it's spooky season.
Spooky.
We're scared. Okay.
And why is it so fun to be scared? It's so fun.
I don't know. It's so fun.
To
it's so
be
fun
like,
when it's
fun scared, not
when it's fun scared.
Yeah.
Obviously not real scary, but to be fun scared that is a really good point. There's just something like really playful about it. So I agree. Yeah. But hopefully the things we talk about, we can make it playful and not scary.
I mean, I think it'll be the both and, because that's a lot of the Laugh Cry Club, right? It's the two extremes and both being true. Shall we go? It's so weird without Rebecca.
Why don't we flip it and reverse it? Can I nominate you to go first?
Oh my God, yes. We're trying new things every day at the Laugh Cry Club. Rebecca, we're so thrown through a loop without having you here.
I know we're dealing with uncertainty as we speak.
We are, and it feels like improv. Like Rebecca and you, when I wasn't here, you were probably so good at this. Okay, so my laugh and my cry. So my cry was last night. Most of you know, if you're a listener, that I'm not a great TV watcher, but I've been getting into it. In fact, if you are watching any clips of this, you can see that there is this TV in my room now. I'd never had a TV in my entire adult life in my room. Long story of how I got it, but it is here. And so I've been watching a few shows and enjoying it. And I can't even watch it and just sit, by the way. I watch it and I work out. I put leg weights on.
You put leg weights on?
Yeah, and I do leg
funny.
circles. Bad.
Like the 80s.
Total. I was a huge fan of like I was a huge fan of the workout videotapes and DVDs. My whole life, yeah. So
did you ever do Tae Bo?
Of course, yes, I did.
Billy Blanks.
I did a lot of Tae Bo. I did all of it. The Windsor Pilates. I did. Denise Austin.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what she's up to. I mean, I'm sure
she's still working out, and she looks great.
I bet
she looks great. Yeah, but she was
a powerhouse.
Intense. Yes. So I work out in bed while I'm doing this, and I was watching a show that Joy recommended, Dying for Sex. Oh my gosh. And it's a woman who's going through cancer, and I've really been enjoying it. I love when people live freely. I love when they get to take off all the armor and they get to take off the layers. And so I've really enjoyed it. And it very much resonates with me because she's going through her end of life cancer journey with her best friend. And I could see myself I could see myself doing that, being like, I want my best friend, I want my girlfriend to be the person in the room with me. And so that part resonates with me. And it's sort of a love story between women, which I always say my greatest love stories have been women. And so the last episode last night killed me. And it was the end of life. And I won't go into it in case you decide to watch it. The parallels of what I witnessed, they did a really good job showing what that hospice piece looks like. And the part that killed me was when they talk about the mouth dropping. Your mouth drops, you get relaxed when you're transitioning, when you're dying. And the going between both sides, the sort of hallucinations, but you're in between, I believe, like two realms, and watching it and having lived it. I lived that. Watching it from the girlfriend's perspective, her best friend who's with her. And there's one point where the best friend has blood on her shirt. And she says, I want this blood. I want this blood to always be here because when it's not here, I'm going to want this blood. It reminds me of, so many things. And I almost turned it off because it was so fucking painful.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, that show's really...
Oh my God.
It's a lot after what you just went through.
Yeah, it was so painful and so beautiful. And it landed in so many ways. And then I just sobbed, and I was glad my kids weren't home yet. And I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and ugly cried. And then I got up and I went in the bathroom to get a tissue. My laugh is that there's this, Steve brushed his teeth with charcoal toothpaste. And on the bathroom door, there's a little bit of charcoal toothpaste that's like, because there's a hand towel. So he must have like rinsed his mouth and like went to get the towel. Something dripped and my house cleaner hasn't noticed it. And I won't wipe it because it's him.
Yeah.
And then I just started laughing and I was like, oh my God, this is the blood. It's my charcoal toothpaste. And these weird things that give you comfort. It's just like you want that little last piece.
Yeah.
And so then I just started laughing because every time I pee, every time I go in there, I see this.
It's like, see the charcoal.
And it would have driven me nuts before because I'm such a clean freak. I would have been annoyed. I'd be like, how's a house cleaner not seeing this? I feel like it's meant to just be there, this little tiny drop speck of charcoal toothpaste. And so anyways, then I started laughing and then I was crying. Then I was laughing and crying, and I was just in the spiral of the laugh and the cry and feeling extremely grateful to have walked through that journey and feeling utterly devastated. And it's the both and the laugh and the cry. So that all happened last night.
I had no idea that you were going to watch that show. I almost feel protective of like, I should have, I mean, I know you have your own choices, but I'm like, oh, I really want to make sure you know how, but like, it is what you said earlier. It is such a beautiful story of friendship.
It's so beautiful.
Like the most beautiful. And if you wanted to ever listen to an interview like with the creator of that show, the one, like the actual best friend who lost Molly, it is, I'll send it to you because it is, and I think she actually interviews Michelle Williams who plays Molly, and they have this just gorgeous conversation about their relationship and how happy she was of like how it turned out and how it was such a beautiful tribute to their actual friendship. And it's just so cool for them to talk about Molly in a way that's like, you know, this was obviously a show, but it was someone's real life.
Yeah.
And what great care they took to make sure that it was exactly who she, like her spirit was like no one else.
Yeah. And she died happy, and Steve died happy.
Yeah.
He died peaceful and happy. Mm-hmm. And that part was just like, oh my God. Okay. Deep breath.
But I also love how you're like, I'm going to grab a tissue, and then you see the charcoal. And it's almost like this. It's like that. It's like those things where you're like, almost like Steve's fucking with you. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, okay.
And it is one of those things, you know, as hard as it is to feel, y'all, we don't feel the highs without feeling these lows. And I think that I've always been a big feeler, but the expansiveness really of that laugh and that cry is like on the full ends of the spectrum, the most cry painful of my whole life. This happens in grief over and over and over again. You think you can't tolerate it. And then the laughter is so much. And I do think it comes from not avoiding. I know it comes from not
That's
avoiding.
Really
I know it
point.
came from like, if I would have turned off that part, I would have cried maybe not as hard. And then I would have likely numbed.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Of like the ability to go from one extreme to the other is the example of you like letting it all out and not trying to stifle, not trying to numb it. Because I feel like so many times we're in those moments of deep sadness, how that flip immediately of laughter is so cathartic at the same time. I'm so glad you liked it.
I loved it. Thank you for that recommendation, Joy. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over to you for your laugh and your cry. What you got, Mama? What you got?
My laugh and my cry. I was thinking about this because I was like, my husband and I have this like really funny, not tradition. I guess I don't know. We have a funny thing. Like my husband does this thing where whenever I'm like I take a lot of naps with the dogs, and it's always like me passed out and like all the animals are on me, whether it be one dog's like laying on one side, and then the cat's like, so I'm always like piled. I have like a weighted blanket of animals. He's done this for years, probably, I don't know, like 8-9 years, where he takes pictures of me sleeping with the animals, and then he sends it to my friends. So like I'll wake up and not to like
this.
not like a blast, but he does this all the time. So the other day he just like I wake up because he'll include me on the text messages, but I wake up to this text message of me, and it's almost like, I don't know. It's like this weird thing where you wake up and you're like, what just happened? And you can like see yourself taking a nap. So it's almost like this snapshot of like 5 minutes ago, where when you wake up, you're already kind of like fuzzy and out of it. So he did this the other day, and it just like, I was like, we actually need to make a coffee table book of all the photos you've taken of me sleeping with the animals. And then he like sends it out to the group chat of like my friends, and everyone's like, oh, look at them. And then I'll like start texting him, and they're like, you're awake now. And I'm like, oh, you guys. So that was just making me laugh the other day. But I also have this very silly thing with my husband and my friends, like, who actually know how much I love this now, that will do it on occasion, is my husband and I got into this like really weird habit of sending each other pictures of our dogs taking a shit when we were on a walk.
Hold on. You might think that's a weird habit, but I feel like this might be a thing men do. I feel like men take shits and send it to each other. I mean, I'm not a man, but I've heard this. Men, if you're a male listener, will you confirm if that's true?
So like, that is actually, I think you're right about that. I actually had roommates in college that I'm pretty sure they would send you anyway. But so we started this with our one dog, JT, you know, when we just had him, where all of a sudden I would just get this photo of him taking a shit, like when they were on a walk, right? And I thought it was the funniest thing. Then I started to do it back to him. So the other day, my friend sends me one, hi Leah, if you're listening, where she was dog sitting and all three of them were taking shits at the same time. And she sent it to me. She goes, I think you're going to really appreciate this photo. And it was like all three dogs in unison taking a shit. And I was LOLing so hard. I think there's actually a calendar out there that you can buy of like, I think it's the funniest thing. I don't know why it's like became our thing, but
we could
that has been my
that
laugh
later.
Yeah, that has been, I know, we need to unpack that. That has been my laugh this week, is like the photos of me napping with all the animals, and then our stupid thing with like the animals taking a crap. So that has been just the humor that I needed to find in my life, where I'm like, how did this become our thing? It's actually really funny. I also think it would be a funny coffee table book to put like in a bathroom.
And you have all the content. You have so much content, and your dogs are so good looking that could be like cute. A bonus.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute and disgusting. It's
like is Kipsy a dog that like needs privacy, or does Kipsy just crap anywhere?
No. Okay. Well, because he was trained. Well, you trained dog. Okay, so Kipsy, because he was in my office as a therapy dog, he could pee and poop on command.
On command, yeah.
Now, not anymore. Now he just does whatever he wants. But it would be like, go potty, go poop. And I remember my mom once saying, like, I would spend $2,500 on a dog if they peed and pooped when I told them to. But that was because...
Because he had to, because he was like going to the office with you. Yeah,
totally.
I get that.
So
our dogs are,
now
are trained the same way.
He just does whatever he wants. I don't know if he's private or not because I just put him down in the yard. He doesn't.
And then he doesn't like go in a corner.
No, on a walk, he'll just shit wherever he wants.
I just have different dog personalities. Like one of my dogs has to go in a corner, like he needs privacy, where there's one that will just crap right in front of you. Anyway, I think it's the funniest thing. And, yeah, I probably sound like a teenage boy being like, haha, but it is like a joy in my life to see those photos. So my cry this week has been, honestly, I was like, I really didn't have another cry this week because we're also recording this very close to each other. But I have been, I think, more living in like a nostalgia because October just brings up such fun nostalgia for me. So I've been living in more of like this, not sad per se, but I love feeling nostalgia when I watch movies. So I've been going back into watching like some really old Halloween movies that like make me feel warm and fuzzy and nostalgic in like this kind of longing way that's, you know what I'm saying? Where you're just like, oh, I just kind of miss this time in my life. Have you seen Death Becomes Her?
No. What is that?
Okay. It's an old movie, probably from the 80s with Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and
how have I never seen this?
Bruce Willis. And so Bruce Willis is like the main character. So I went back and watched Death Becomes Her. I think it's just like, it's so cheesy because it's like it was made forever ago. I think, let's see, when did it come out? 1992. So not the 80s, but early 90s. And it's just about this guy who does like plastic surgery and like, anyway, it's a really cute movie. So I was watching that. But that's kind of been more of like the mood that I've been in is just really going back and I don't like gory, scary movies, but I like to watch like fun, scary movies like that.
When you go back to that like nostalgic stuff, does that make you tear up? Does it bring up like that old good, like the good, like, oh,
yeah,
God, that's the best.
It does. It's, I think about, and I think that's why I like watching things that were like from the 80s, from the 90s. It just gives me that time in my life where things seemed easier. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they necessarily were, but like my mindset at the time wasn't worried about A, B, and C, wasn't worried about, so to kind of foreshadow what we're talking about today, wasn't worried about uncertainty in life, wasn't worried, is the more carefree times in your life, because October kind of brings that out for whatever reason, whether it be just like traditions you had in school or going out with your friends trick-or-treating, going out with your family trick-or-treating. That is something that I just like really like to tap into, and especially like this time of year. So yeah, it does make me feel a little teary because I just like, I miss those times. I miss those days. And I can be someone who will be like yearn for the days, but I try not to live in that space too long because I like, I try very hard to be like, stay in the present, live in the now, Yeah,
I think that's a good segue to what we're talking about today. Our fun title, Scared in the Dark, Why Uncertainty Feels So Threatening and How to Navigate It. One of the things that just came up for me as you were sharing that is when we have uncertainty, it can make us feel psychologically safe to go back to what we know. Sometimes that is going back and watching old movies, like my daughter calls them her comfort shows, right?
Yes.
Like it is making your house, it's like I call it like going back to the basics of what it is that kind of brings you that soothing, and we can do that through nostalgia, right? We can do that by kind of going back. So that just kind of reminded me of a coping mechanism you can have when your life feels uncertain. Keep the things that make you feel certain. Those are the things. Like we know there's certain music that's going to make you feel a certain way. We know there's certain drinks that are going to soothe your nervous system. We know that there's certain things that are going to happen. We can take those micro moments when our worlds are really scary and uncertain. Even right now, you just look at what's going on in the news every day. If you're a news watcher, that's an opportunity to be like, if this is activating me, maybe I go back to being, 19 years old and having my first apartment and decorating for Halloween.
Yeah,
like maybe true. That's it, right?
Yeah, because it's just that scary what if that we're really afraid of. And I think that when I see this with clients, the extreme, and I thought about you the other day because I had a client who was really just stuck in like this anxiety loop, just could not see an off ramp. I went to that place of like, okay, so let's talk about the worst case scenario. Like, let's give some air to it. Let's give some breathing room to it. We explored that, and I think it was helpful, but it's like what you said before is like, allow yourself to go to the absolute worst case scenario, because once you say it and once you kind of repeat it, it gives it less power.
It does, because here's the thing. The brain is wired for prediction. It craves certainty, okay? The brain craves certainty. And so when we think about, like, if I grew up in a chaotic household, as an adult, I probably really am going to want certainty in order to feel safe. If there's, like, when I went through the uncertainty of cancer, I made my home like it was like nesting constantly, like low lights. I don't use any ceiling lights, like candles, like everything I could do to kind of create that safety. So the brain is wired for, like, we want to feel safe by predicting what we can control. The brain craves this. And that is why we get into anxiety, because anxiety gives us a false sense of control. If I worry about this, and this, then I'm actually have some sort of control. But it's bullshit, because anxiety, it's one of the most useless emotions out there. It doesn't actually do anything except give you more anxiety. So so it's like, it's, you're not actually, whereas like in therapy, Joy, with your client, and you're running the tape all the way through, that's very intentional, right? That's a very intentional way to walk through the anxious thoughts. But if you're just living in your head and spinning, that's going to create more danger. And the brain confuses the uncertainty. It confuses it with actual real danger. That's why anxiety, people actually feel like there is a tiger in the room with me right now, but there's not.
Yeah.
There's not. Yeah. There is if you are actually out in, I don't know, Africa, and you're running with the tigers and one turns on you. Like, I don't know where you could have that experiment, right?
Right. But like the perceived versus real, and our entire being has been trained to think that that the perceived is real, and it's not. So we're just living in that, like you said, heightened state, and really looking at how to calm your nervous system. I saw a funny quote on the internet last week that was like, everything that I've been anxious about didn't happen, so that means it works. Cute.
Oh my God. Yes, it is cute. And as a former anxious person, as a former highly chronically anxious person, I can say that most of the stuff is fine. Most of the stuff
you mean that like it works out?
Yeah. I mean, I can think about staying up all night for years, worried about my student loan, because I was in this really fucked up program with like this compounded interest. So like my student loan is now $30,000 more than what I took out, even though I made payments for years, because of how they do the... Oh, yeah. I'm still in it, by the way. Yeah. So what I originally took out and then I paid on, because of the way they do the interest, it's like you're never going to be done with it. And I could remember losing so much sleep about this payment, and like, how am I going to make that? Like, and I've obviously, I mean, it's been, I graduate 20 something fucking years ago. I still have this stupid student loan, but I look now and I'm like, I wasted all this time worrying about it. And guess what? It's still here. I'm still like in it. There was no point in like keeping myself up at night over and over again of what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that turns into, how do we get rid of the anxiety? Sometimes it's the acceptance, right? I had to accept, like I ran the tape through what were all my different options of how to get out of this, how to get this back. And I did eventually have to give it back to the government. And now I'm going through that whole, fun fact, gave it back to the government, and guess what they did? They started my whole thing all over again, like I'd never made one payment. So shut up. Yeah, I had to turn it the only way to get out of my private loan was to give it to the government. And then once I did that, they they started me all over at 25 years like I had never paid ever. Okay, so listen, people are like, oh, I don't want to pay off other people's student loans. It's a fucked system. And unless you're in it and unless you've experienced it, then I'm kind of like, I don't know how much of an opinion you get to have.
Right. Right. Right.
There's my mean judgment, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Hate me if you want, but listen, as somebody who has integrity and pays all my shit, it's a screwball system. But I look and I'm like, now I'm in acceptance, and so I'm not in the anxiety. And that was a lot of going through the uncertainty with cancer. It was like I had to go into the acceptance. This is what we're dealing with. The probability of making it is low. Steve had a 14% survival rate. I ran to that darkness. I always call it running to the edge of the cliff, and then coming back and being like, okay, I can accept that in this moment. I would say he's safe. I'm safe. The kids are safe. How do I focus on what I can control? That is a lot of how we navigate uncertainty. We have to name it, right? Like, my nervous system is feeling unsafe because this is fucking scary. And it's the difference of fun scared, right? If you're in the movies, you're like, I feel scared because I'm supposed to feel scared because this is a scary movie.
Right. You know it's coming. You're like, oh, there's going to be a jump scare in this movie.
Yes, you name it, and there's some predictability, knowing that you're going to be scared. So if you're doing this in your life with something that's actually scary, we can name, there is a lion loose, and I am close in the wilderness. And that is scary. And then we have to go into what is within my control, and how do I, and I'm going to throw this one out. This is a big one. How do I trust myself? The older you get, I think it's easier, right? Do you think?
Definitely as you get older. I see a lot of people, and I try very hard in therapy to not talk about age much, because I never want someone who's like in their young 20s to feel like, it'll just get better when you get older. Like, that's just not helpful. But in my mind, I'm always thinking like it will get better as you get older. And because, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I was a wreck, worried about money all the time. That was my big one when I was younger, was money, and like not having enough and being on my own and I really wanted to be independent, but like I wanted to make sure I was making enough money to pay my own bills, and so that was a big one. And then, as I got older, the things that I started worrying about became less and less. When you see how much control that you have over your life, per se, or at least for me, I think my fear, and a lot of people have this fear, like their worst case scenarios, like I'm going to be poor on the street I'm going to be homeless. Like, that's usually when it's related to money. Like, I'm not going to be able to afford my bills. I'm not going to be able to have a place to live. Like, that's usually kind of like the big scare for someone like me who is like worried about money. And then what I started to realize is, this might be frustrating for people to hear, but like over time you build up enough data to look back and be like, this has yet to happen to me. In the past, I've always figured out how to manage my life, how to pay the bills. Therefore, I don't think that that's going to happen. Like, I have to just look at the past to predict the future. And I do this with clients too. I'm like, look at your history. Historically, you've always figured it out. It's not all of a sudden one day you're going to wake up and you're not going to have a home. So I think that it's like, we have to take this day-to-day confidence in ourselves to be like, let's pay attention to how my actions are going to affect the future. Am I spending in a way that's going to be responsible so that I can you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like, just don't worry about it, but it is more of just an awareness of how our behaviors are adding to what we want versus being so fearful of just something all of a sudden happening. Like, of course, we don't know what's going to happen. God forbid we have something where it leaves us in like this financial stress. Of course, like those all things could all happen. But for now, like acting in a way that is quote unquote, like putting money in the bank towards something that feels like we have the control over our future is what I started to realize is like, oh, okay, I didn't have enough to go back on and look at like the actual evidence of the past, where now I can be like, looking at my past, the evidence is showing that I've always figured it out and I will be okay. And I've built up enough equity of my life that I think I'll be okay. But to answer your question in a very long roundabout way is, I think as you get older, it does get a lot better. It gets easier.
Yeah. And maybe as you get older, there is that opportunity to reflect. If you pause enough and reflect, I think we can see that in the darkness is where we grow, is where we really have to dig deep to get through it, to come out on the other side. I mean, I look at this with like World War II, with like Holocaust survivors. Like if you've ever read the book, The Choice, so amazing. Like how they got through being in a concentration camp, like how they made certain things in total uncertainty and death and losing every single thing. They created the psychological safety through one another, through community, through trying to figure out, like, you know, you're trying to predict. And I read tons of World War II. I still do. I always have. I really appreciate the stories of adversity. And I just find it so inspiring to think like, and I did that through cancer, as I was like, I'm losing one person and it's brutal. I can't imagine having had to pick a line to walk in and your family is walking into, you know, the gas chamber and you're losing your entire family like that and you're going to be tortured. And I really held on to that human beings, we are really wired to survive. And so in that darkness, when the brain is craving that predictability and the brain is saying, SOS, you're going to die, danger, 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 we are wired to survive. And we have no idea what we are capable of until we're in it. And I think that's something that I hold on to, especially as I get older. I'm like, I've done things I've never thought I would ever be able to do. I've been through things I've never thought. If you would have said like, oh, you're going to be able to do this, I would have been like, there's no fucking way. And I think this with clients in front of me. I'm like, wow, they've been through so much. Like I find it amazing and inspiring. And I think that's why part of the blessing of being a therapist is we witness that resiliency every day. We witness humans doing the undoable. We witness humans healing from things that are like, I don't know how they do this, but it's like remarkable. We witness the miracle of healing in really dark situations. That's huge.
That's such a good reminder. That's such a good reminder around just the resilience that we have. And I don't think we stop and think about that for ourselves. We can look at other people and I can be like, Chelsea, you're so resilient, things you've been through. But when we turn it back around on ourselves, it's so interesting how we kind of like we're exempt from that for our own acknowledgement. But kind of wrapping up this idea around maybe how listeners can deal with uncertainty right now and like this day and age. What are some tips and tricks, Chelsea, that you can offer our amazing listeners?
Okay, so this is not my quote. I don't know whose it is. I just know that I didn't invent it. Connection is protection. You have to stay connected to the people who you love and trust. You have to let people in and you have to be able to rely on others, which is terrifying. As somebody who used to have a massive aversion to asking for help, like that was unheard of in my vocabulary up until probably Steve getting sick. I would have never asked for help. In fact, I didn't even, like, my friends made me. So my friends are the ones who just like were like, we know how you are, and they took over.
Like, we're doing this. Yeah. Because we're not waiting for you to ask.
Yeah, because me asking felt impossible. So don't be like your therapist, Chelsea, okay? People want to help. And if you are blessed enough in this world to have people who you love, connection is protection. When you're spiraling, go to your safest people who can tether you and hold your hand through the darkness. You are not meant to do this alone. I would say that's the my first sort of tip and trick would be that. My second would be to keep a routine. It doesn't matter how that routine is. I think about when I lived in the hospital for pretty much 9 weeks, minus a few days when my mother-in-law was there, and my routine, I took a shower. Okay. It was taking a shower at night. I remember ordering skin stuff, like a DoorDash to just have like a skin mask, because
like
at home I would do that like once
nurturing.
a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once a week I would do like a skin mask, and I'm like, I can order a skin mask. I can do that.
I remember talking to you when you were in the hotel room when we did an episode from the hotel room. You were like, I'm getting dressed. I'm like getting ready.
Yeah.
You put on perfume. You like, you know, you were doing things that were like trying to get ready, like taking care of yourself.
Yeah, a semblance of normal. And then speaking of like the nostalgic stuff, when I was in the hospital, I used Charlie's body lotion because smelling her, because my kids weren't there for most of this, smelling her gave me that calming of the brain of like her being there. Transitional objects, like objects, or, you know, like my girlfriend sent me this big massive blanket that helped me. And I also had Miles's Giants blanket. So I had like a piece of Miles too. Yeah. So we want to try and keep like any little teeny tiny bit of normalcy, even if it's wearing your favorite sweater, even if it's, you know, just putting on that fuzzy pair of socks, like even if it's putting on that lotion, like the nervous system calms with the five senses. Think of the five senses. That's the easiest way. You're going to have to drink something. Okay. Even if your life has exploded,
you're gonna have to drink some water.
Yeah, you're gonna have to drink some water. You're gonna have to. So maybe like make your favorite, like if you can, like throw in that pumpkin creamer that reminds you of something happy, right? We want to try and balance out that brain. So when we're in the uncertainty, we want things that are certain and soothing. That would be the second. So connection is protection. Use the five senses to create a routine and some semblance of normalcy would be the next one, and asking for help. And then I would say the biggest probably of all of it is to name it.
I was just going to say, like, talk about it, like let it out or name it. It doesn't have to be this long drawn out conversation if that's not feeling good for you, but at least to like put it outside of yourself so you can be like getting it out of that swirl in your head, what you said earlier.
Yeah, I'm fucking terrified that my husband is going to die. I don't live in that. We don't live in that, okay? Because then we're in anxiety.
Right.
You say it. I mean, I remember I would say it like to some, like my closest, and then I would cover my mouth like, oh my God, don't put that out into the universe. Like, don't put it out there, right? That kind of, then a different anxiety of like, oh, now I said it. Did I make
now
this
I just
happen?
Manifested.
Totally.
Right. Yeah.
But sometimes we just have to name it and call it what it is. My student loan, this is a complete fucked up situation, and I have pretty little control other than to make the best choice with what I know in this moment. That is acceptance, right? In this moment, what I know to do to get out of the crazy interest that's just doubling everything is to give it to the government. And that sucks because now I'm starting all over. And that is the best I can do with what I know in this moment. We have to do that because if we don't, then we go, well, what if this? And what if this? And what if this? So sometimes it's just mine is saying like, I'm making the best decision that I can with what I know right now. That's it. We don't get to go back and beat the shit out of ourselves for what we didn't know.
Right. Exactly.
Hindsight bias, guys.
Hindsight bias is so real. Don't fall into that trap.
No, that's an opportunity to learn, but you can't. What is it? Maya Angelou? What does she say? She says you can't know different until you know different. Wait, yeah, you can't know.
Do different. It's like when you know different, do different.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Chopping up the beautiful Maya's words. Thank you, Joy.
No, I got you. You. No, I love that too. Is like when you know different, do different. And
you can't know what you don't know, which sometimes takes life. You've got to have some more life experience and some more adversity.
You just made me think of something where I think we need to, I'm going to say this for myself, but if it helps anyone else, is like, why don't we all just start looking forward to all the things we get to learn for the rest of our life? However we're like left on this earth. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to learn so much more. Instead of like, we're constantly looking backwards of like the lessons we've learned, the things that we've done, the things we're dealing with now. Like, why don't we just start looking forward to all the things that we're going to learn and continue to learn?
Yeah, I love that. How would our lives be different if instead of living in fear, this is a Gabby Bernstein thing, we lived in faith? We lived in faith, and maybe the faith is that we're just going to keep learning, and it's up to us how much harder we want to make the lessons. What if it's that, Joy? Oh,
it's true. It's up to us. It's totally because at the end of the day, what other excuse or what other explanation is there where it's like, we're going to learn lessons. We are here for that. I believe that as a human, that we're here to learn lessons and we're here to grow as a person. We're here to have like our spiritual self learn a bunch of stuff. So anything that happens, it's not to say that it's not going to be hard. But when I look at stuff that's happening, I'm like, all right, my tip and trick for like my brain is I just go to like the next 5 minutes. I try not to project. I try not to go back. I just go, all right, so right now I'm going to take out the trash. Like I just kind of start to narrate what I'm doing.
Yes.
Because that kind of pulls me. Yeah. Mindfulness. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's just a normalization for people to hear that you're not alone and that we are all going to go through hard times. That is just the assignment that we're dealt when we're a human. I love that someone actually named it that a while ago. I don't know who it was, but I heard this say like, blank, this was a great assignment for me. And I love looking at things as like an assignment of like, oh, it's hard to kind of hear that, but like, oh, I'm going through this because it was it's in a way a soul growth thing for me that I'm dealing with.
You're so right, Joy. You're so right. And again, going back to cancer, which was probably hands down one of my greatest teachers, I could remember feeling anxious and being like, fuck this. If he dies, I will be so pissed off that I wasted time worrying.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
yeah,
I will be so pissed off. And so I remember making up my mind with two things that I could hold on to. And this is like a tip and trick, two things. One, I never felt like Steve knew his worth. I know he didn't know his worth. He did not feel worthy of unconditional love. He did not. And the other thing too is he never knew how to ask for help. So when he got sick, I made up my mind that there would be two things I could do. One, we were split up when he got sick, which is fucking crazy. But as his family, I was like, this is my opportunity to focus on these two things. One, I'm never going to make him feel like a burden. This will be an honor for me to walk alongside of him in this darkness. And the other thing is I wanted him to feel unconditional love, not Steve, the roadie, who sent a black town car to pick me up and flew me out somewhere and did all this shit and had to buy me gifts all the time and do all that. I wanted him to know that you as a human are fucking incredible. And you don't have to earn that. You don't have to do anything. And then when I would go into worry, I could go back to those things. I could go back to keeping my heart open. I could go back to those truths for myself as well. And when I look at that uncertainty and how we navigate, you're gonna spiral sometimes because you're human, okay? Nobody's fucking perfect. I've had many meltdowns, if you listen to the early show of the Barbie day where I flipped the fuck out, how many times I've cried, how many times I've lost my mind, how many times I've acted in a way. And to Joy's point, those are the learning moments where we can just give ourselves compassion for being human and then go back to, let me name it, go back to, let me get that routine, go back to. So this is not a linear process. It's messy, guys. Fucking shit show if you went through my journey.
And it brings forth the idea sometimes, especially in this world with like comparison and social media and everyone kind of like putting all the fun things out about their life, that perfection is actually just the biggest myth and the biggest lie. That I at least will do that sometimes, of kind of like trying to live this like life that's like in comparison, because that was something that that's like an old wound from growing up in such a religious town where everyone was like, this is how it should be. And, there's a lot of like past stuff that I face around that. But this is such a beautiful reminder of the crap is really like the dog's photo The crap of life is like really where the fun is. It really is, if you choose to accept it. It's just so hard to see sometimes, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, and where there's no meaning without it, guys. That's it. There's no meaning without going through the shit. So give yourself a break, because we're all going to navigate uncertainty that feels threatening. We're all going to be in the dark. We're all going to act in ways that we feel ashamed of, embarrassed of. And maybe you can just say, I'm a human. And Steve and I learned that, Steve would be like, this is an authentic reaction. And I'm like, you're damn right it is. Like this, Yeah, or I'm sitting on the floor crying like, oh, there's no room for me in my life. How am I going to do this? And we just knew to, as a couple, instead of turning on each other, we learned to be like, this is an authentic reaction to a tremendous amount of stress. And so we cannot forget that. We can do all these beautiful tips and tricks, but I want to make sure that I am very clear that, to Joy's point, perfection, and it's Tony Robbins who says it's the lowest expectation you can have because it's unattainable. We are not shooting. There's no growth in perfection. There's no beauty in perfection. Nobody wants to watch a movie that's fucking perfect. It's boring.
It's boring.
Yeah, so do you want to be boring? I don't think so.
No, that's why I love watching The Housewives. It's like it's so fun. But I'll put an ending to this too. Is like the what did you just say right before you? Oh, when you were talking about okay, you were talking about saying like this is an authentic reaction.
Yes.
And I say this all the time to clients. I'm like, you are having, because a lot of times we kind of like over pathologize our reactions or like judge our reactions.
Yes.
And I'm like, let me just lay this out for you. A, B, and C is happening in your life. You are having an objectively normal reaction to a very stressful situation.
Yes.
And they're like, I never thought of it that way, because they're like, why do I have so much anxiety? Why do I have so much worry? Why am I so swirled up about this? And I'm like, well, because if you look at it at face value, this is a hard thing to go through. And you're having normal reactions, but we judge ourselves for just having normal reactions all the time, that we're not like all this like happy, shiny person. Where I'm like, I just want to kind of flip the F out this week. I was having such a hard time with some things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just like, this is just objectively annoying, or this is just. And so I think, like, to your point, it's an authentic response to a very stressful situation. Don't gaslight ourselves. Like, recognize that this is an emotion you're supposed to be feeling. Okay. I just love this conversation, and I'm so glad you got to watch Dying for Sex, because now it makes me want to go watch it again, because it's just such a beautiful show.
I'll probably end up watching it again. I love it so much.
It's so beautiful. I'll send you that podcast episode too. And then Rebecca will be back next time, and we'll continue our spooky season theme. If you want to reach us, you can email us at laughcryclub@gmail.com, or find us on social media at laughcryclub. As always, supporting the show would mean the world to us. If you could take 2 seconds to share it with a friend, or rate us and review us if you have not yet done so on any of the podcast apps that you're listening to us on. And we will see you next week. We love you so much.
We love you. That's true. Bye.
Bye.
That's life, baby.